In taxes, property tax bills usually come out in October of each year, and owners have until January 31st of the following year to pay the tax bill. If a sale takes place prior to October, the title company must prorate taxes based on an estimated amount, which is typically based on last year's taxes. In this situation, the seller gives a credit to the buyer for the estimated taxes that the seller owes for their period of ownership during the current year. This is because the buyer will end up getting the tax bill in October, and they will have to pay the full amount at that time. While the title company may be able to help ascertain certain facts that get a more accurate estimate, such as noticing that an over 65 and homestead exemption from the prior year are likely to be removed from the current year, or that last year's value was based on an unimproved lot and now there's a house on the property, the ultimate proration amount will still be an estimate if closing is before the tax bills come out in October. The title company is not responsible for the accuracy of the estimate, and in reality, the parties may agree to a different proration amount than what is suggested by the title company. There is a provision in the contract that does require the buyer and seller to re-prorate the taxes once the bills come out, and to reimburse the party who paid too much, if that ends up being the case. Paragraph 13 of the contract states, taxes for the current year, interest, maintenance fees, assessments, dues, and rents will be prorated through the closing date. The tax proration may be calculated taking into consideration any change in exemptions that will affect the current year's taxes. If taxes for the current year vary from the amount prorated at closing, the party shall adjust their prorations when tax statements for the current year are available. If taxes are not paid at or prior to closing, buyer shall pay taxes for the current year. For example, let's say 2022 property taxes were $6,000. If the sale closes on March 1st, 2023, then we don't yet have a tax bill for 2023. The parties will prorate based on the 2022 amount of $6,000. The seller gives the buyer credit for approximately $1,000, representing the 1/6 of the year that the seller owned the property, knowing the buyer will pay the full tax bill when the tax bill is released later in the year. When October comes, if the tax bill is actually $9,000, say $3,000 higher than originally estimated, the buyer may, under the contract, go back to the seller to re-prorate based on the actual property tax assessment of $9,000. In this case, the seller would owe the buyer approximately $500, about 1/6 of the additional $3,000. If, on the other hand, taxes end up lower than estimated, the buyer may owe the seller money. Although, given the rise of home values in Texas, this is less frequently the case. And intentionally or not, buyers typically do not bring the issue to the seller's attention if the buyers were to over-credit at closing. If a file closes before October, once tax bills are received, the title company can certainly help confirm the estimate that was used to prorate at closing and help you calculate what an appropriate proration would have been had the actual tax bills been available. However, the title company must remain a neutral party, and the buyers and sellers must work it out amongst themselves to exchange the funds owed to one another, as contemplated by the contract. We are Allegiance Title, and we are your trusted resource for results.